name is Ms. Nixon, and I'm going to demonstrate how to draw a portrait. Okay, you're going to start off by drawing an upside-down egg. And then if the person's looking straight at you, you're going to draw a line running down the middle to divide it in half. And then again, you're going to want to divide it in half going this way. There's a slight curve to it, you know, thinking about just like the surface of an egg and having that curve there. And you can, if you take your hands and repeat it, you know, that way too, you can use that as a help, kind of a gauge to help make sure that the face is divided in half. Then we also have the face being divided into 5 eyes. Again, notice I'm using my hands as a gauge. Kind of get that. And then we're going to take the same information, the same width of one eye, and turn it vertically. And we're going to come down just a little tiny bit, a little skosh right there, to indicate where the tip of the nose is going to go. Then we're going to again take the width of one eye to come underneath the nose, and sometimes I find myself coming up a little bit, but that's about where the mouth is going to be. So then we take the inside corner of the eyes and come straight down. That's about how wide the nose is going to be. All right, and then you come down from the center of the eyes, right, and you can find that that will be approximately where the corners of the mouth will be. The ears typically tend to start at where the eyebrows are, and they tend to also end about where the tip of the nose is. Okay? So this information I want you to know, it comes from the Greeks. It's the idealized concept of beauty. You know, if you think about all the models and actors and actresses, they tend to meet this criteria more than the average person. The notion of a face being perfectly symmetrical is actually an optical illusion. But when you look at yourselves and you start drawing yourself and observing yourself more closely, you're going to realize that there are really subtle things that are going to be different on both sides, and really everybody's face is that way. Some are more extreme than others. And those unique differences are what make you look like you. So we're going to come back in here to the portrait, and I'm going to demonstrate how to model using Izzy here. Okay. So I'm going to start by shading in the eye socket. All right. And Izzy has very fair features, so and there's a lot of strong lighting in here. We've got 3 different sources of light, so the shadows are actually a lot more subtle than what I'm drawing at the moment. So, can I get you to look straight at me for a minute, please? So notice I'm using the eraser too to erase some of the guidelines that I used. Okay, and your nose actually really is a fairly wide structure. It's an illusion of making it smaller because of the shadows on both sides. And you'll notice that if your family heritage comes from warmer climates, your nose will tend to be a little bit broader in structure. And if your family heritage comes from colder climates, you're going to find that your nose tends to be a little bit narrower. And that's so that your body can warm the air that you're going to be breathing. So I'm just focusing on where the highlights are and the shadows. I'm going to have to come in and soften some of this later. Just come in with my eraser now to lighten up a little bit more right up in here. Right, and I can get some of the shadows over on this side a little bit more. Okay, and give her cheek a little more volume. And if you come down underneath her nose, you've got that little shadow, that divot there that's called the fulcrum. And then the softer shadows on the other sides. But you can see how that also, it gives you the highlight that you get, that little ridge under both sides of the nostril. And then I'm noticing that because of the amount of space that I have here, that actually where I have the mouth is too low. All right, so I'm going to raise the mouth a little bit to right about here. And I'm just drawing the line where the lips meet. I'm not going to draw, you know, commonly, especially girls will draw mouths like this. Right? And then, but like the exterior lines really don't exist. And so it's really a highlight in those spaces. So I'm looking at how wide Izzy's mouth is in relationship to the tip of her nose, and also whether or not it really lines up with underneath her eyes. And it actually comes pretty close to that. So I'm going to come out a little bit wider than her nose. Right? And then I start with the lips meet, and I'm pulling down. And you can also use your fingers to kind of smudge that a little bit. And you can do the same thing to go up. And you can kind of use a curve in the line, give it a nice directional use of line to give it that volume. Right, and I can come back in and strengthen that line there. And then I can use my eraser, use my kneaded eraser, to do that highlight that's happening between her lips. Right, and there's also a highlight that's on her bottom lip. If you want to help give that more volume too. And hers actually, the highlight stretches all the way across a little bit. Okay. And then you have her bottom lip. I mean her chin space, the shadow that's being cast on her chin. And that brings her chin up to about there. Okay. And because I'm looking up at her, I can see more of what's happening on the underside here at the different values as they're coming around. And this information is softer, it's more subtle, so it's not as strong of a line. So now I'm starting to look at how the side of her face works in relationship to the nose and mouth. Actually, do you mind tipping your chin just down? Yeah, good. Because that way it's more of looking straight at you. Okay, and so then I can see that it's got a curve coming out here. It's broader than it's. Trace the temple region over here. And so I'm starting to get some more volume coming out, so now it's a safe time to go in and draw her eyes. So again, I'm going to draw, I'm looking at where, like if you're looking at the upper lid, I'm looking at where the peak is, where the highlight of that arc is in relationship to her eye. And hers is closer to her nose than it is to right in the center of the eye. So I'm going to go ahead and make that mark. And then I'm going to come in and do the bottom as well. And so for her, the bottom, where it's the lowest, is closer to the exterior part. So hers comes down a little more like that. All right, so that's what I'm going to be doing up here. All right, and then I'm going to go and draw the iris. And the iris is going to be a circle that comes down and touches the bottom edge and continues up over the upper lid. All right, and so I'm going to do that right up in here. All right, and I'm just going to go in and fill the iris and leave a little kind of glassy spot. Just kind of imply that information. And then I'm going to come in and draw the rest of her lid coming down. And you'll notice that in everybody's eye does this. The highlight on your upper lid, it always corresponds with where you're looking. And so it's going to move with your iris and your pupil to whatever direction that is. So that's, it's a given piece of information. And it helps you remember where to put the highlight. So we're going to go ahead and apply that. And then we can, now Izzy's eyebrows are really faint, right? So there's actually more of a shadow right up in here. Right, and then it's actually a highlight. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to shade in her forehead a little bit. She's got in her temple region. And let's double check what I've got going on here. Her chin is up here, and that's the center of her face, because the top of her head is feeling off. So I'm going to come up, oh, look what I just did. See that mistake that I made earlier? So that brings the top of her head down. So you can see how I'm modifying this template. And really, I think one of the best parts about approaching it this way is realizing that it's safe to make mistakes. And so, like the first marks you put down, you're using them to kind of judge, and then you're looking, is it right or is it wrong? And so you can always come in and fix it. All right, so we've got the top of her head, and now using that, I can kind of gauge and figure out, make a guess as to where her hairline's going to be. And she's got this wispy piece that comes down on that side, and the rest of her hair is pulled back. Right, and then you can see her ear, and actually the tip of her ear is a little bit lower than her eyebrow. And it tapers in a little bit, and actually it's a little below her nose. All right, and you can see much information of her ear. Okay, and then her neck is going to come down, right, extended from her ear. Right, and you have the shading of her neck. And then you have her sweater. Right, and go ahead and allow the shoulders to go off the edge of the paper. Right, and you can see a little bit of her ponytail sticking out here on the back side. Right, and you can come in and you can blend a little bit more. I'm not gonna, and then you can come back in and kind of darken where you see, where you see like the streaks and such, like more shadows. I'm going to come back in because Izzy has a fair complexion. I'm going to come back in and draw a little bit more with the eraser. So I've got more highlights happening right up in here in the bridge of the nose and right there at the tip. That little streak right there. Try to lighten that part of her cheek a little bit more.